Hello, everyone. This is Dutch with Artwork by Dutch. Thank you for joining me. I am currently doing quite a few things here at once, but today is going to be a discussion regarding how to pair a canvas, flat, a comic, flat a comic, and we're going to start with a piece for Shelby Robertson's RageWar that's coming out in Indiegogo. Sorry, I'm trying to do something else at the same time here, and it's just not working. Fine, I'll choose this time. So, apologize for the dead air, dead screen. It's supposed to actually be showing the overlay. So let's... So flatting, again, what we're doing is we're just making selectable, coloring it. Colors are butting up against one another, and we're making selectable options. So that way the comic book colorist, the next person along the line, can go ahead and get their colors adjusted by shifting hue. I'm just going to show you what I'm doing here. It's not actually coloring yet, so it's kind of... Yeah, I'm going to show my ugly mug here. All right, so this is the new Logitech Pro that I just purchased, and sorry, I'm just trying to secure an appointment at the same time. It just happened to pop up, and it's just like, it's first come, first serve. I'm choosing it, and it's not letting me accept it, so it's kind of being silly. But basically, when I'm flattening a page, I get it typically either in a variety of forms. I get it as typically I want it as a TIFF, and it can have one layer, a background layer, and then from the background layer, I can go ahead and use my action I created that's available on my Patreon to sketch lift it off of the image, off of the white background, and from there I'm able to go ahead and... Okay, this is kind of annoying me here. Just get everything up and running. So let's open up Photoshop. And I will share that screen. So I'll remove myself from this. We'll go ahead and load this all up. So everything you see here, I basically search for references. I'm trying to make sure I don't pull up anything that I don't need to see for Shelby's card. Maybe it might be this. Nope, but I do need that. So that's one of the images I flatted for him. And it's not the homage. Man. So you can never have enough references. Here we go. Okay, so one of the first things I do, usually with Shelby's work, I don't need to go ahead and adjust anything on the image itself, he does some adjustments beforehand because this is original artwork he's drawn on 11 by 17 Strathmore and copies it over, or doesn't copy it over, but scans it in, does some things in Photoshop, and sends it over to me. So I have an action that basically rips the line art onto a transparent background and automatically flats, and there's a neutral color on the background. I like to lock the line art layer because sometimes I may find, sometime with some artwork not being cleaned up, I might find something, I may clean it up, but if I'm on that layer doing it and then I happen to fill it with the color, it will automatically color that area on the line art, which I don't want. I want it to color in the flat. So one of the things I like to do is I usually will work big and then small. And you can see with Shelby's lines, they're very nice and thin. So I do like to get a little close in here. And what I'm doing is as I'm selecting my lasso and aiming for the center of the line while holding down, I believe it is Shift, but I have it set on my Cintiq as a express key. And I always carry his artwork over past the bleed or into the bleed trim. And I just think of this as, one of those puzzles that you have as a kid at the store. Oops, actually, now I'm looking at this is actually a bigger shape. So that's what happens when you're zoomed in. But Photoshop is actually forgiving versus Clip Studio Paint. Doing this in Clip Studio Paint, all these little areas would be opened once I've closed up my selection here. And then you have to go back in and reselect everything. But in Photoshop, that actually, their AI just will close up that loop and make it one huge selection. And yes, with his lines being as thin, and this happens even in dealing with comic book pages, you will get sometimes where you go over. And once that happens, you just go back in and you can zoom in and fill it with the background color. So I grab my paint bucket. As you see here, dang it. I have to raise this up here. Oh, it's not what I want to see. This is all closed up. It's those little squiggle dancing ants. So I've got my color. And see, I was in my line art. I was touching with the paint bucket, but luckily I've secured it with transparency, so I'm good. I'm going to hit my flats. So those are learning curves, little lessons you come across. We're done. So here, we've got some areas where we missed, but these are correct. I'm just looking quickly over. I'm not going to spend too much time at this point. Zoom out, come back over here. So I'm also working background to foreground. Now, is that a must-have rule? No. Oftentimes, depending on what the image is, especially doing comic book pages, you'll find that if you have a very busy background and you have the antagonist in the foreground, it might be easier to work on them first, flattening them, and then moving forward, because then you're just cutting through. And I'll show you an example of what I'm talking about here, like cutting through with your lasso and laying down your flats. Then it just makes it easier then to go and take down those smaller pieces. So I'm closing out this loop. This happened here. I'm just selecting that, getting my paint bucket, dropping it in, deselecting, and then as always, save it. So in this case, he likes using PSDs. And if you were to draw this in Clip Studio Paint, I would recommend not saving it as a TIFF, especially if you're flatting something in Clip Studio Paint. Don't save it as a TIFF, save it as a PSD or as a clip file if you're going to continue sending the work on to somebody else to work on it in Clip Studio. But if you're sending it off to somebody to use in Photoshop, basically what happens if I was to send this flat file back to you and you wanted then to color, it's going to merge everything down into one layer. It's one of the things I don't like about Clip Studio. I wish it would actually bring the layers as a TIFF over so I'd have these two layers come across, but everything gets merged down. Is that going to be a hassle? Not really. You basically, just like I do when I'm coloring my pieces, I will duplicate the layer, turn off the original layer, and then I can go ahead and select with my magic wand those colors, copy paste onto a new layer, lock the transparency, and then start to render it. So again, some of the colors I'm choosing, they may be a little dark. I'm trying to keep the K-tones less, because when we start going really high K-tones, you can start getting some muddiness there later on in the process, or even too, you might find if you're printing for CMYK, that color does not exist. And this is what I mean by cutting through. So right here, I've taken care of this. This is, say, a character. I'm just now cutting through with my lasso into areas I've flatted. And you can also do this in Clip Studio Paint. You just have to make some adjustments. And I will be having a tutorial on that one as well. And I do have something on my Patreon about that. So if interested, please consider being a supporter on Patreon. And again, you just see how fast I'm going. I'm just, basically a curve is just straight lines. So I'm just arcing it, going through quickly. I'm not sitting here. I'm actually lifting up my pen off here and I'm just dabbing, or tappa. God, what movie is that from? I forgot. Tappa. Oh, Happy Gilmore. So like Happy Gilmore, I'm just tapping. And then there's some parts like with the small areas, I'm just freehand drawing it. This also helps too. If you're an artist, I would highly recommend, doing some flatting. It trains my hands to get used to this repetitive work. It also helps me with muscle memory. And with the muscle memory, I translate that over to my work. So I was going to originally go all the way down through this whole Bandolera magazine, but decided not to. But I'm just aiming down the center of these lines. And I'm zoomed in enough that I can see it. I can zoom out. I know Shelby's work very well, so I can play this by ear. Well, one of the things, like I said, you want to do is just clean up the work. So if you do, you can play with the levels, adjust so it's a little whiter, the background, and the black's more blacker. What happens if it's muddy, and I'll show you an example. I did see it up here. So in this area here, I'm going to zoom in as much as possible. So luckily, this is not going to be an issue for me. I'm not going to pick it up. But if say this was just smearing from the page and I lay down this blue, now I'm going to choose this blue because I'm going to bring it somewhere else. I might actually pick up a different hue of blue, which when I go to select the color, or they go to select the colors to start the rendering process, you'll see this weird, and I'll show you here as an example. I'm just going to choose a slightly darker, something that you're not going to notice quite on screen. Let's go this way. There you go. So you're not going to notice that. I mean, look at that. It looks like the same thing. But when I go to select it, I'm like, oh my, what happened here? And that's because the paper on this line art layer is smudging. And so I'm picking up that smudge. So you definitely want to make some adjustments with the levels. Like I said, I know Shelby's work. He usually gets it cleaned up pretty nicely, very crisp. It's like right here is some paper, just a little bit. He'll adjust and take care of that when he's doing his work. But I'm just going big. I'm just doing big selections, worrying about the small details later. And this is what helps you become a fast flatter. If you sat here and did all these little pieces like I'm just doing here, you're going to go nuts. I'll go back over. So I'm just doing the big pieces first and then filling it in with color. Coming back. Also, too, I'm not going to the edge of the black line. Like I've seen some do it. You're just, you're wasting your time. The color is going to be hidden underneath there. All the special rendering, etc., will be colored. So I hope that my mic is actually on. It looks like it is. Last time, I'm still redoing that video on quick masks in Clip Studio Paint, or whatever I did the last broadcast, and it was bad because I forgot to turn on the share the screen, so my audio. All right, so I'm gonna stop and take a little break for just a second. Put up the overlay for the Wayfarer. I'll be right back. I want to take care of this thing if I can. Oops, see, there's one. That's because I didn't close out the loop, but select, we're good. Save. I'm going to be right back. Put on some music here real quick. Hi, thanks everyone for holding on there. Okay, so here we are again, working big to small. Then we tackle the character over here, and I'm just gonna. Now I have the choice of either fully selecting everything here and just filling it in, which I'm thinking I just might do, and then that makes breaking down the smaller shapes from there easier. Or I could have just done it individually, hands, etc., individual colors. See, I know this is something right here, so I'm gonna have to take care of that and make a mental note. So we'll do, in this case, big, medium, small, work our way down. I might start with this guy and then leave the gun last. And there is a way of going ahead with your, setting it up with contiguous and your wand and selecting everything, but you see there's some gaps in here. So you'd have to close those up. So I'm really good at those puzzles, those puzzles at at the restaurants and everything. Okay, so let's see what would be a good color for his head. Just gonna like a little marshmallowy. Again, does it matter for me? I mean, I'm not going to choose something that's outrageous and neon pink or ungodly neon. I'm choose something that he will be able to see, work with, and adjust. Another thing too is your eyes and teeth. Flat them the same color. Don't waste time flatting them separate. The only way you'll know is if you get feedback from the renderer that there's some issues, or the creator of the comic who's saying, "Hey, please do this because I want that broken down." Overall, just making their lives simpler. They're gonna, again, make changes. I was just thinking this would all be yellow, but I'm gonna have to change that. My thought of mind might be a little blue here. So I have it set up with, once you make your selection, you can come back, grab your paint bucket, drop that color in, good to go. I thought those are two different elements here, but guess I'm wrong. And here's another tip. When you're if you have selections to make multiple selections by holding down shift or tapping down on once you've made your first selection, hold down shift so you get your plus, tap on the screen, and then hold down option. That then allows you to make other selections. That will help speed things up, especially when you are doing windows. On a building. There's so many times that has saved myself. It does cramp up my hand a little bit doing it, but once you've gotten that done, you'll find you're going to go much faster. I'm seeing some things. I'm quickly just making some corrections. I see them going over a little bit. I'm a perfectionist. And I'll change those a little gold. And I just carry it over the other side. So I'm just making one huge looping selection. Here, correct that. Gloves, give them a little blue. And I'm going to break down almost everything here. I'm going to go over here. See, I'm just willy-nilly just taking that lasso, connecting it on the other side, dropping my color. Good. How long did that take, guys? That didn't take that long. So break down these buckles. So I like to go wide and come back over, kind of like you're following a maze. It's a little hand-eye coordination. And, you know, like the Jamaican bobsled team, where they had runners would probably be the best sprinters. I do think that you do need the little artistic touch to understand what's going on the piece in front of you, because sometimes there's some artists that like to infer some things and they leave out, they don't fill in the whole item or picture with the information there. Like it could just, you could have left this out as a shadow and just give a hint, like this line disappear, etc. Like there's a bright light coming across, more shadow on this side, and you have to infer, so you have to fill that in or whatever. So I'm just choosing some colors. Now here I can't see where that little sliver is, so I'm just going to another color area. In Clip Studio Paint, you can't do that. You actually have to click on that little sliver there in order to fill it. Oh, here we go. Hide that there. That's perfect. And I can even adjust this, like these gloves. I want them to pop out just a bit more, but change them just a bit so that we can see them. He can see them. And then from there, I mean, that didn't take us long to do it all. I'm going to come back, select this, and I'm going to go through and we're going to change the slug head. And this one, I'm just going to zoom in a bit more. So I'm going to just weave up. So I do apologize for the earlier mix-up. And I didn't expect that test to pop up right then while I was trying to go live. So Shelby's RageWar is going on now. I've included his link in the description for his Indiegogo. My pre-launch Kickstarter is happening right now for the Wayfarer issue 1. And I'm going to also color this back end where the cap is. And that's happening. Come join me on Thursday at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, as Krista Crawford will be joining me as a guest. We'll be discussing our pre-launches. Hers is the Wolf and I, and of course mine, like I said, is the Wayfarer issue 1, Prelude and Fairway. We're just going to do some drawing, discussing our projects, probably for about an hour or so, and I might work on maybe a sketch for the countdown. So as it gets closer, it'll be something we can add to. All right, so I'm going to make this a little darker. See how we're now working down to medium shapes. I will definitely change the magazine to a different color as well. Now, where that all goes, I don't know, but I'm here to at least fill in as much information as possible for him. Plus, I have to get these little scraps. Yeah, so Marta Garcia had a very cool way of doing all this. He's got a video out there with, I think it's Spider-Man. I should find and include it. It would work if all the line art is closed off. Like I said, we see some open gaps in ours here. And I just hit the fill command on my express key on my Cintiq. So So it's automatically just filling these colors, these selections. I can break this down as much as possible, but that's why people hire me. It's able to get done fast, reliably, make as many selections as possible. So, it's their choice. If they don't want this, he can go ahead and quickly change it out. So I am a flat colorist, and I am available. So if you have your comics, your Kickstarter, I'm always seeing on Facebook and other social media posts for a colorist. Like they have the artwork, they're ready to go, but they've forgotten about the process. And the process is typically there's a flatter. And what they probably should do is, or you could do, is hire me first, get your artwork flatted. That way, when you choose or are interviewing through for a colorist or a renderer, you can show them the artwork, say, hey, it's done, because that'll make their job go by a lot quicker. They don't have to sit and try to find somebody, see if their person's available. Me right off the bat, and I would flat out those pieces for you, and we would get your Kickstarter, your project done rather quickly. So info in the bio under my streamer link. So it's not too much here to quite break down for Shelby's stuff. I might be doing a little bit of overkill here on the flatting. It has happened before. There's been times where I've flatted the heck out of a page and then buy the comic and see that the renderer basically ended up just coloring it one color or setting it back or, painting it. Yeah, no, that's usually it. I'm trying to think. It's happened a lot in like Scooby-Doo Apocalypse when I worked on that. So you see, I'm just whipping through this. This is just holding down the shift key and the lasso. And we're getting this done pretty quickly. I'm not going to winnow too much because I'm not seeing a lot of things that need to be broken down on a gun. This top part I definitely will do a bit more. And we'll call it a done because he's going to come through and he's going to make changes. Maybe he already has an idea of what this gun's going to look like and his color comps. And again, it's heavy in the K-tone, but this is just the flats. This is not the end product. But we do want to, try and get something that's not heavy in those K-tones. We don't want anything to get muddied up at all. And again, he's going to change these colors to fit his scheme or whatever. I'll take this up here. It could. Might be an idea. This is like some sort of laser pulse rifle. Good. Quickly color this in, and he'll probably look at it and go like, oh, that's actually not a bad idea. But again, could be something he's like, I don't really want to invest that much time in. The slide arm here, I'm going to change that. We are zoomed in. Again, I'm just aiming, again, lifting up my pen, dragging across. Makes it go by so much easier. Now I'm wondering if this actually is something colored in. So we're going to choose a little lighter for that hand, for this armature. So I'm sorry if I'm sitting here and just whipping through this. But this is what I do. You'll oftentimes hear him or others like Mark Brooks talk about how fast I get something back to them and done right. And, maybe there's some things that they may change or whatever, but I get feedback and then I make changes. All right. So I'm actually going to color that a red. That might actually be funny. So aiming down, lifting up my pen, tool, or mouse, and making the selections. Now it looked like that was missing, but it's filled in. It's just the graphics. Photoshop's not keeping up, or the graphics card's not keeping up with it or something. Right. Now, do we want to do the fins? Yeah, let's do the fins a little. Yeah, that's not a fin. And I'm going to select the rest of this body up here and change that. And those lines are straight. Shelby uses a ruler. This is a little pink, but go back over if it's too pink or rose. Yeah. And there we go. How long has the stream been going? 34 minutes. A lot of that was my just chatting and doing other stupid things. But yeah, I've broken down as everything. This is Shelby Robertson's piece. He actually did the inking, the drawing, sketching and inking on his American Dischord channel on YouTube. There we go. I'm just taking a look. Maybe I might make some adjustments here. I will take a last scan through this just to see if there's any areas I missed or overlapped. So now that we've come through, I can start checking and see is everything one solid color. It's all good. Maybe I'll make this a little darker. So just doing a hue adjustment by hitting Command U on the Mac, or might be Control U on PC. So it's a little darker so I can see that. And then the background, I just usually leave my original flatting color. So that way he can come back in, select the entire thing, and then drop in whatever textures he wants or brushes. Sometimes dropping a smoke brush and then just enlarging that smoke brush for effect, and then adding some spatter, etc. So that is how quick it takes to flat a illustration piece like this. It's the same techniques I use for coloring comic books, comic book pages, for DC, Marvel, IDW, etc. So again, this is Dutch. Join me again, like I said, on Thursday, 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Krista Crawford and I will be going over our pre-launch Kickstarters. Mine starts on October 6th, and I will have to get Krista's on Thursday when it started. I was looking it all up and getting ready. I have to create some thumbnails for it. So I have some cool thumbnails for YouTube, etc. But thanks, guys, for joining me and watching. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. Contact me. Again, my information is under the streamer links .com/Dutch, and has everything, my website, email address, and more. And if you are looking for a flat colorist, especially if you have a project and are looking for a colorist, always remember that the first stage is that of a flatter, and you might find a colorist that might do that, or oftentimes they're going to have their person, or they're going to look for somebody. So that may delay your project as well. So getting the flats done, and then you have the product ready. So you're ready for them to go. they can render it out and then send it off to their letterer. So thanks everyone for joining me. This is Dutch, and I will talk to you guys later.